have to press the space bar in order to talk.
All right.
Ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Hit that. Still got a minute to go on the phone. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Early start there.
I'm gonna stand. Already up.
8, Verizon says no yet.
Oh, and when you call the meeting to order, yeah, make sure you.
Welcome to the April 1st Painesville Township Zoning Commission meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Okay, John Everett,
Here.
Mark,
Here.
John Hott,
Here.
Daryl,
Here.
and Chairman.
Here. Okay. Have we received any questions, concerns from the general public, either Rachel or to Harley?
I have not.
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Hearing none, we'll call the regular meeting to order. We have the minute. We received the minutes from the March 11th meeting from our secretary. And any questions, concerns, changes to those minutes that were emailed to us? Hearing none, entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by John, a second by Mark. Roll call, please.
Okay, Mark,
Yes.
John Everett,
Yes.
Daryl,
Yes.
John Hott,
Yes.
and Chairman.
Yes. Okay, we have a public hearing tonight. Amendment to the text of the Painesville Township zoning regulations resolution has been initiated by the zoning commission. And the request proposes to amend section 17, permitting fee simple lots and standard associate. I'll ask the staff to give us their proposal or their recommendation on the proposed text amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this text amendment is coming from the trustees. A property owner approached the township regarding a parcel of land they own that is zoned R4. Instead of creating apartment buildings, they wanted to do townhomes on fee simple lots. All of the entire development had met the zoning requirements in terms of, sorry, I apologize, I was not on. You want me to start again? So the text amendment comes from the township trustees, and the text amendment was brought on because we had a property owner approach the township regarding a parcel of land they owned that is zoned R4. They wanted to develop the land, but they did not want to develop an apartment complex. They wanted to build townhomes on fee simple lots. And the entirety of the development met the zoning standards in terms of setback, unit size, setback between structures. The only thing that it could not meet was the setback from property lines as it relates to the structures themselves. So the structures met the minimum setback from the mother parcel property lines, but once those parcels were cut up into fee simple, they couldn't meet those minimum standards anymore because the text was created for the sole purpose of either a condominiumized property or apartments. And so through conversation, the trustees saw that, there was an opportunity here to permit fee simple lots in the R4 district and and it's something that would meet our comprehensive plan goals, and it's something that the township overall would find appealing over apartment complexes. So they wanted to do a text change to permit this for any property owners that own R4 land that would like to develop it in such a way. So they would like to have this language in there to accommodate those property owners.
Thank you, Harley. Any question from the commission members for what Harley just said, or describe to us why the trustees wanted the proposed text amendment?
The yellow part that's highlighted on the original is what the changes are proposed, right?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, part G, I read it several times, and I'm not sure if I understand all of it, but the minimum side setback for buildings not connected together and a double negative there, which I'm not sure, have a firewall between units 20 feet. Have a firewall between units 20 feet. Now, I don't know if that's bad language or if I'm just not reading it correctly.
So the minimum side setback for buildings not connected together, and which is probably better, which do not have a firewall between. I guess we could use said units, between said units. It shall be 20 feet. Yeah, that's just bad language. Brevity, probably, when I was drafting. I apologize. So the minimum side setback for buildings not connected together and which do not have a firewall between.
So,
I feel like I could just redact that altogether, or eliminate that altogether. Do not have a firewall.
because if they're not connected, they don't have to have a firewall, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So because the minimum side setback for buildings not connected together is 20 feet. Okay, yeah.
Let's see, there was another part in there that
No less.
I had a question on garages. Was it single garage?
Yeah, all units shall have at a minimum a 1-car attached garage.
Is that going to cause a problem?
No, it won't.
Are they primarily thinking of elderly housing?
No, I wouldn't say that they are, only because the townhomes that are over on Riverwood Mapleview subdivision or development, those I would say are a mix, and typically those dwelling units, the townhomes, for example, in Riverview is a 3-story. So I wouldn't say that they're necessarily only considering for senior housing. Excuse me.
Because it seems like, I don't know, it seems like most of the condo units, I guess I could call them that, have double garages. And it seems like even now people don't have enough garage space, or they want to use storage in one, and they have to, and 20 feet back, it's just 1 car length, basically.
Yeah, so I would agree, but we do have additional parking standards in this section that requires parking spaces per unit to be provided, and those are usually provided in the right of way, like what they have in Riverwood. And in general, the general standard for townhomes is a 1-car garage as opposed to 2 for attached townhome units. And that's really what this is geared toward. And so if they had a detached unit and they had space for the 2-car garage, we would obviously support and encourage that. But because we are being accommodating to not just detached single-family units, but attached single-family units, that's why the minimum is 1 car as opposed to 2. But we do have additional parking standards in here Oh, rather, no, that's in section, all of it's in section 29. But we do have parking standards that do speak to that, specifically in the R4 district, because the parking standards are written as if it were an apartment complex in this district.
What is the definition for fee simple lots?
I believe we actually have that in our definitions as well.
Okay, I didn't look that up, so.
That's all right. I'll grab it because I don't know it off the top of my head either. But a fee simple is different from like a condominiumized lot. Yeah, so it's
You own it outright.
yeah, and fee simple I believe speaks more to the way that it's handled by like the auditor for property tax purposes, but I don't know. Let me pull up our definitions.
Google says fee simple is a legal term used in real estate that means full and irrevocable ownership of land and any buildings on it.
So typically with condos, no one who lives in the condo owns the land.
Right.
But with these townhomes, they would be owning this smaller parcel of land that the townhome is on. So this is zoned for condominiums, which the condominium association or developer would own the land, but they would own their unit. With the townhomes, the people would own obviously the structure, but also the land underneath it.
That would also include land either side, front or back too. Right.
Well, I think what's being proposed, yeah, front and back, yes. Yeah.
So there's not very much of a lot there once you build the house on it, so.
Yeah, no, that's why there's a prohibition against any structures with the exception of decks.
What's the square footage plan? Do they get
So what we have a minimum square footage required for the lot, which is 1,680 square feet.
And the dwelling size would be 1,200 of that,
Yeah,
so there wouldn't be very much land there.
No.
So I'm wondering why they would want it fee simple. I mean, what's the purpose of that then, rather than just having it as a condo that matches what we have already?
so developers now are having a lot more difficulty in getting funding for building condos. It's not as easy as doing fee simple properties. And so that would be the purpose behind the support or the desire for a fee simple structure versus the condominiumized one is simply the way that the contracting and funding has been working. It's a lot simpler for them to get funding for fee simple structures or lots rather. So that's one reason for adding the fee simple component into it.
Okay.
I was wondering, 20 feet on the frontage is very small.
Yes.
What do we have that compares to that?
The townhomes, the townhomes that we currently have in Riverwood Mapleview, those are. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna pull some up. I'm gonna pull the
That'd be nice.
yeah. So then you guys can see it.
I have difficulty with that.
So these are the condos that we have currently, or the fee simple townhomes that we have currently in the township.
Mm-hmm.
And they meet I feel like they're less than 20 feet actually, but let me just double check that while we're here, because maybe I'm wrong. Do you recall, Sean, what those widths are, the lot widths for Riverwood from when we were?
Right at it.
Is it right at 20?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where am I?
Are we talking about that one there on
Zoom in.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
corner of Fairfield and
Yeah, so this is an example of what that would look like.
That's right across the street here, then, huh?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
those
right
are
down
those
there.
are 20 feet wide.
just seemed awful narrow.
Those
To
are
me.
20 feet wide, what's the setback?
And you're talking about some pretty
The
high
setback
density.
is 20 feet
20 feet?
on these ones as well, yeah. And these are all private roadways.
Yeah,
And
your
then
trees and high
another,
density.
this is an example of that off-street parking.
Parking pads.
Yeah, and they have those throughout the development to provide additional parking.
Are these purchased?
Yeah, these are
or
purchased.
leased, Or what?
No, these are purchased. These are owner occupied. Well, they're privately owned.
They're privately owned as opposed to like an HOA?
No, there's an HOA. There's an HOA. These are privately owned. The HOA manages all of this and
The
the
exterior roof and outside walls, right?
yeah, they've got a playground over here and all of that that's handled, and all of this common land here is maintained and owned by the HOA. But yeah, and I mean, we were all really shocked because initially they were planning on just doing this loop, and then this was going to be like some storage units for the people that lived there. But they sold so quickly and so well that they ended up just expanding and eliminating the storage units altogether. So okay, there's a desire for them, but yeah, that's what those look like.
Is the
Those aren't
roadway the
actually-
same width as most of our other township roads are? I'm thinking of one that's actually in the city now, but Ridge or Liberty Green. I don't think they're single garages either, but if somebody's parked in the driveway, they're on a sidewalk.
Yeah.
Now, there's no sidewalks mentioned here, so I presume no.
Mm-hmm.
But when they park on the road, it also leaves a very narrow roadway. You have to keep weaving in and out of cars. I know I didn't think about the banks loaning money. It was part of the things we're looking at, but I can understand why somebody might be requesting this. But it seems like it's really over. To me, it sounds like we're trying to put a lot of people into a small area of land to the benefit of someone who wants to build it that way. But you said they did sell, so there must be a market for them.
Yeah, and I do want to reiterate the standards in terms of density doesn't change. So the density that they're proposing is the same as what would be permitted if they were doing townhomes that were rentals versus fee simple townhomes. So they could still build these and just rent them out as a rental community.
Yeah.
And that would be perfectly fine. The only thing we're doing here is saying, yes, you can have fee simple version to where they're not rentals, and these are going to be the minimum standards to fit in there, but the density isn't changing at all. So whether we permit them to be fee simple or not, they can build the amount of townhomes on those parcels as they would be permitted whether they were fee simple or not.
Would they have any requirements for what percentage of rentals versus owned? The
So
condominium has that kind of
that would be a part of their HOA regulations. That wouldn't be something that we would enforce because it's not an FPUD. Usually in an FPUD, we're able to negotiate some of the terms of the HOA deed restrictions. But in regards to this, no, we wouldn't be placing any restrictions on how many can be rentals and how many cannot. Like I said, as of right now, without this language, all of them would be rentals because they would not have the mechanism to permit them to sell them as units to private sellers. They would have to be rentals because they don't have the means right now to create condos because of the financing issues. Oh, additionally, if they did do townhomes and they wanted to do all rentals, there's also no requirement for them to have garages at all. So that is a new requirement in this district too.
Are
Any-
those actual photographs or are they drawings?
No, these are photographs.
Okay.
But I'm not saying that this is what is going to be built in the future. I'm just saying that this is what we have now in the township.
Yeah.
But I think the ones that they're looking at doing are only 2-story. At least that's the last drawing I got from this particular property owner that brought about this conversation in the first place. Is their drawing was a 2-story, but the maximum height for any property owner that owns R4 land that wants to do something similar is 35 feet is the maximum height. So
No, you're talking about single story.
My question to the staff is this.
Mhm.
If we do this, then it doesn't preclude for another developer to come in, do the same thing, as long as they meet all the requirements.
yes,
And trustees are okay with that.
yes. The reason being because truly the only difference between what they can do now and what we are proposing is a rental complex versus fee simple. That is literally the only difference. The only reason why we have these standards is so that we don't have people with 0-foot setbacks on private roadways and things like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
And
Any-
we do require that in this language that any internal roadway be private. It wouldn't be public
Okay.
roadway. So they would only be 20 feet from private roadway as opposed to public, so they're not in the right of way.
Any other questions or concerns from the commission members for the staff?
Mine might be out of context, but can I ask if there's any kind of a historical assessment of what happens if you go that full rental versus fee simple in terms of property values, or I'm just talking about historically.
Yeah.
Does it help the value? Does it hurt the value?
I can't speak on that. We do have rentals in the area, and there's a lot of people that have the opinion that they would prefer not to live next to rental communities like that.
Different.
So I would assume with that general opinion that perhaps it would lower value, but I honestly don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
And this isn't passing judgment, but a rental has a tendency to have tenants that may not care because they don't own it, so to speak, and then they might have a value could be affected by that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, we've got like those townhome communities right on Menor Avenue in the city of Painesville that started off really nice. And I mean, we can look at them now and see where they're at. And that one really nice one, that's got all the different colored facades. What is that crossroad? Do you know? Where the school buses need to turn in, but everybody has to stop back here in order for school buses to turn in. What's that road? You know what?
I'm drawing a blank.
We have Google. And the nice part about Google is, as long as there's a street view from when they first went up and now, we can see the difference in the way that they're cared for. But I mean, that's not to say we also have fee simple townhomes on the east side of the township that weren't that are now rentals. These guys right here. So these ones, you know which ones I'm talking about now. I mean, they were really, really pretty. Actually, I remember looking at them and thinking that, you know, I'd want to live there. Where's the, you know, this isn't working. But ultimately, what we're looking at, I can't really speak to real estate trends. I'm not a realtor. I think we can make assumptions, but you know, it's not really telling. Yeah, so obviously staff supports the change because we're not really changing anything other than the location of property lines, and the way that the ownership would work. Yeah, here they are. Look at how pretty they are. They're so cute.
Okay.
So.
Thanks, Harley.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sorry, I know it was really lengthy and it wasn't
Any other
helpful.
questions from the commission members? Hearing none, we also received a letter request from the Lake County Planning Commission, and they had two comments on our proposed changes. One was the reduced setback on internal minor public roadways, and if I recall correctly, this is going to be the internal roadways in these fee simple lot R4 subdivisions are going to be private roadways. Am I correct, Harley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So since they're going to be not
Yes, Mr.
public, they're going to be private, that's null and void. So we're not going to accept any non-public, all will be private if we do this. Also, they want to do some language regarding firewalls meeting the Ohio Residential Building Code. Now, going through this, reading this, it's really redundant. However, even if it is, I know it's redundant, and I know that our neighbors to Lake County Planning Commission has helped us out a lot in the previous times we've asked them to help us out with proposed amendments, text amendments. I don't have unless the commission has a problem. I don't have a problem in adding a clause in section 1708 F, as in Frank, which is on page 17-3, which says the minimum setback between connected buildings connected together and have a firewall between units. That was where we'd put that clause in there saying meeting or we could put and have a firewall and then put the in parentheses meeting Ohio Revised Building Code, the residential building code. Apologize there. Would anybody have an objection to putting that in as amending the text amendment?
I don't see any downside to that.
That'd be my proposal of amending it, adding that clause in there or somewhere in a parentheses under besides firewall. Anybody have a problem with that? If you do, please say yes now.
Or for hold your peace.
Daryl, all right with that?
No, no problem.
All right. I want to make sure I don't want to ramrod something through that somebody has an issue with. So what we're looking at, folks, is from this public hearing, before I go to possible closing it, we've made 2 amendments to what we, over the original text changes that we had. And one was from John, and that was in section 1708G. They were going to revise that line. Am I correct, Harley?
That, the one
John?
statement,
Yes,
right?
Okay. Okay, we're going to revise that line to make it much more clearer, and then we'll amend F as in Frank before that to add the Ohio Residential Building Code in right near the firewall. Okay. Any other changes or any other concerns that the commission has of what has been presented to us tonight of this proposed text amendment? Okay, everybody's killing me with my ears and saying yes, 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 yes. Hearing no concerns, further concerns. On the public hearing, we have a choice to make. We can continue the public hearing if you feel you need more information, or if you want to close the public hearing, and then we can talk about addressing that later in this same agenda. We close the public hearing tonight. We have 30 days from today to present our changes, proposed changes to the trustees who have the final say. Our meeting is April 1st today. Our next meeting is until May 13th. So we're out of that 30-day window. So if you have more concerns, suggest you continue it. If you have no further concerns, you're everyone's satisfied with amended changes we made, I would recommend a motion for closing the public hearing. So having said all that, I recommend entertain a motion for
So moved.
I'll second it.
move to what? You're gonna make the
Close
motion.
it, right?
Correct, to close that.
Okay, Mark made a motion to close the public hearing, and John Everett seconded. Any question or concerns, discussion on the motion of closing the public hearing? Hearing none, roll call please.
Okay, John Hott,
Yes.
John Everett,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Daryl.
Yeah.
And Chairman.
Yes. Okay, public hearing is now closed. We have no site plan or architectural reviews tonight. We have no old business. Number 9, address the dispossession of any closed public hearing, which we just did. So, we close the public hearing. And we can either make a motion for approval, in the positive, approval of this text amendment as amended at the public hearing. So you'll have to say approve of the text amendment for section 17 as amended. That would be the motion. I'll let the opposite commissioners decide what they want to do.
Apparently, we don't have a consensus on this.
To make it a little bit easier, you have to make the, recommendation in the affirmative anyway, and so then you can take the vote, so anybody can move to make a motion to recommend to the trustees approval, and then you guys can say either yay or nay as part of your, voting.
I will make that motion per the amended changes discussed.
Before we go to that, legal. If someone really, okay, I know we voted to close it.
Yeah.
Correct.
And if someone really has a problem with that, then and if there's 3 people who have a problem with that, then we would say no. But the question is, if they would say no, it's because they have more concerns.
Right.
So how do we undo that?
You can make a motion to reopen the public meeting.
To redo it?
To reopen.
To reopen it?
Yeah, and then and then somebody could make a motion to continue it like you had discussed.
And make that
Yes.
okay. So
Do
so
we
I-
have a motion on the table, or do I read?
there's no motion on the table yet.
Okay.
So I know John has some concerns. So what I want to know is if John, if you want to reopen the public hearing, get some of the issues a lot better
Yeah.
analyzed, I have no problem in doing that. If that's what you want to do.
Just a little bit of a discussion first, maybe, since obviously everybody's kind of thinking this thing. I'm not sure that we all have a clear picture of what's going to happen here. My biggest concern, I guess, is looking at the township.
Tell you what, let's do this. Let's reopen the public hearing. Let's let's go over the concerns that everybody has, make sure everybody's understanding what we're voting on. We can always reopen it, we can always close it, and then we can do the same process right over again. So,
Make a motion.
John,
Make a motion that we reopen the public hearing.
I got a motion to reopen the public hearing.
I'll second it.
John Everhart seconds it. Discussion on the motion. Motion to reopen the public hearing. Roll call, please.
Okay.
John Hott made the motion.
to reopen.
Everhart said yes. Seconded.
Everett.
Everett,
Everett, sorry.
he has a heart.
He is maybe. All right.
I feel like I'm missing somebody. Everett,
This is for reopening the public hearing.
Daryl, Mark, Hall, Chairman.
No, it's just a roll call.
Yeah. Oh, 6. Okay. Okay. John Everett,
Yes.
Daryl.
Yeah.
Mark,
Yes.
John Hott,
Yes.
and Chairman.
Yes. We got questions? Let's have them hashed out right now. Okay, so we have the public hearing now reopened. It's reopened. And John, since you have concerns, I'm going to do my best to shut my mouth and say, so the floor is all yours, bud.
Well, since nobody, I think there might be others who are a little bit concerned too, but I do feel that in the past we've had some times where we've asked somebody to do to squeeze extra houses in and stuff like that. My philosophy seems to be that for the most part, people they're not looking to try and squeeze more people into the township as they're trying to make our property values stay good. And I know that there are rentals, for instance, those down in Concord by Crow Road down there, a lot of people bought those things and rented them out. I haven't gone, not in the township, so I haven't really looked at them. I do remember that one time we had some Redwood, I'm not sure if you were here at the time, Redwood wanted to come in and do some building here, and I went to North Royalton and looked at some, and they were starting to look pretty ragged. And so the rentals, I'm not sure if what the population here in the township are looking for a lot more rentals, or whether we'd like people to take concerns and buy their properties.
This would here be, if we pass this, it's we passed by the trustees.
Yeah.
All we're doing is making a recommendation to the trustees.
Yeah.
Trustees pass this, then the owners of these condominiums would be owning the property, not the developer. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I do just want to reiterate, the R4 zoning, as the property is zoning now, is zoned for rentals first and foremost, and condominiums are the only way to get owner-occupied units where the owner actually owns the structure. That's the only way that they could do it, but the way that it's written is for apartment buildings.
So what is the advantage of not building apartments here instead of doing it like this?
Is selling the units as opposed to having to have a management company and everything move in there and rent out the units. So instead of building a rental community, they would be renting something that they can sell off, and then just have an HOA take over. But
HOH, or HOAs, have generally, worked out pretty much. I mean, they have some laws in, I mean, it's a good law, they can enforce things on their own.
Well.
Does that take care of what we're talking about, though? If somebody's
Because
letting a
An
unit run
HOA,
down,
if an HOA has that responsibility of the decision of the percentage or of rentals versus owned, that's up within their purview, it sounds like.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was insurance that drove that or if it was the HOA's decision to drive that. I'm in an HOA in Painesville Township, Tanner's Farm Development, and we have 21 units, 2 rentals only, 10%. But if that changes a lot because of the association's rules, then that could change the nature of that. So I don't know that we can mandate that HOA one way or the other by our responsibilities.
No, we can't mandate. However, we do quite often make suggestions to the owners, and because the property owners and the developers don't live in there, and because they are more apt to make the trustees happy, they have been very accommodating. We have developments that have 0 rentals. They're, at least per the HOA deed restrictions, none of the units can be rented out.
so they
so-
can take that step themselves.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the developer creates the HOA deed restrictions first, and then hands the ownership over to the residents once they're done developing the land. But yes, we definitely have had that, and I'm sure that conversation will be had, especially since most of this conversation between this current property owner has been with the property owner and Chuck, our trustee Chuck Hillier, and he's one that usually spearheads that conversation with developers regarding HOA documents anyway, and so because the main connection right now between the trustees
Can
and
you say who that developer is?
yeah, so this particular one. Now, I do want to reiterate that this isn't just going to affect that one parcel. It'll affect any parcel that is zoned R4 that has the land available to develop upon it. This one specifically is Knez, and we've been working with Rick Caldwell, and they've been very accommodating. You know, I don't have as lengthy a history working with them as I do some of the other developers in the area. But Rick's always been really easy to work with. And I'm sure he'll be accommodating to make that change. But again, that's only this one, and any other property that's zoned R4, should anybody want to develop it in a similar manner. I can't make the same assurances. So I wouldn't say to really hang our hat on that being what they do every time. But I mean, again, it's either a rental community or a situation where a potential property owner could rent out their singular unit that they own. Because as it stands right now, this particular property, any property that's zoned R4, can be a rental community. That's actually what it's geared towards, is rental communities. There's really nothing that lends itself for it to have any fee simple lots, which is why we have to make the change, because as it's written now, the only option he has really is to create a townhome rental community, because he's not going to go the condominium route. either way. So it's either it's going to be a rental community or it's going to be a fee simple lot community with an HOA governing, very similar to the other communities that we have. And that's the same situation for any other property that's zoned R4. We're tunneling them into this is all you get to do. You don't get to have a fee simple lot. You don't get to have owner occupied units. You don't get to have an HOA. It's a rental community only. So in the eyes of the trustees and myself, this is actually an improvement to that zoning district because we're now opening it up to be treated more like we do our R1 district where we have fee simple, ownership. But yeah, we can't, we're not going to be able to say, yes, we will definitely get away from rentals entirely, but I will say that as it sits right now, that is the only option for people that own vacant R4 land in the township is rentals. So that would be the difference.
So what this proposed text amendment is giving the developer for an R4 another option.
Yeah, as opposed to tunneling them
Tunnel them
into
into-
apartment complexes.
Okay. So it and the trustees has looked at this as an opportunity to build something, construct something within the township that's not fed only rental pieces only. So it's an opportunity for somebody to actually own a piece of property, something similar like this. So it gives the developer and the township options when we do see a site plan. Don't forget that what we do today, what we do on this text amendment, we do not have the final say in the text amendment. The final say of the text amendment is the 3 township trustees. This goes to them as a recommendation, and they take our recommendation and they can tell us no, and they can do what they feel best for the township. This is we're a recommendation. Same thing as we did with the casement situation. We had the casement situation here. We went through the casement thing. We had the public hearing in the casement. We did some amendments ourselves. We closed the public hearing. We made a motion to forward it to the trustees. Made some different amendments that night. And don't forget, the trustees took 6 months after we did our work that they finally approved that site plan. So the same thing here. As long as we're comfortable in what we're giving to the trustees, from a zoning standpoint, that's what we're here for. So the question I have is everybody is your concerns, except for Daryl, because Daryl has his hand up, except for Daryl, satisfied. Daryl, sorry.
I just wanted to kind of make a statement in some ways. If you put in deed restrictions, the township cannot enforce deed restrictions, period. I got into that discussion with Mr. Gibbs when I first started working with the Planning Commission. He accused me of misapproving lot splits, that I didn't do it according to zoning. And I had to show him that I did. And he said, well, the deed restrictions were this. I said, I can't enforce deed restrictions. You want that, you got to go to the council or the group that has that, the organization, and they're the ones that will enforce it. We can ask for these kinds of things, and I know we have done it even with subdivisions. But in the end, to say something can't be rental is almost impossible. I can go in and buy houses up on any street and be a landlord to all those houses in a single family residential area, and ain't anything anybody can do about it except if they have deed restrictions, and then it has to be the people that live there that enforce that. So while we can talk about these things as not being, they can be. If I'm a person, I go in and buy up various units in this particular development. Unless there's a deed restriction that says I can't rent them, I can rent them out. I can buy that unit, not live in it, but rent it to somebody else, just a single unit.
So you're speaking, for example, at Tanner's,
Pardon?
the homeowners have set that deed restriction to 10%.
No, it's,
The
it's
allowance
put in the homeowner's deed restrictions, usually by the developer.
by the developer.
Yeah, because once the homeowners get those deed restrictions anyway, it's incredibly difficult for you guys to get them changed. I think you have to have 100% vote or something,
Yeah.
and
Too large.
yeah, it's
Okay.
On the, on this particular property, I have no idea how big it is or anything. Is it, what are the alternatives for that developer?
so the developer could do the exact same thing that he's asking to do now. The things that would change for him is there would be no private roadways. There would just be little internal roadways to their apartment complex, townhome complex. They wouldn't have to provide garages at all. And that's it, I think. That would be about it. There would be
If he
no.
didn't include garages, he's not gonna sell it either, but I'm looking at something that would be feasible, but.
Yeah, well, he wouldn't be able to sell the units.
Yeah.
If we don't do this, he wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
sell the units individually. So it would all be one giant.
But now
rental
these-
complex, like
the
across the
ones you
street.
showed, there were like 3-story ones and that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And the square footage is not very much,
hmm
so you're stacking these things up. I'm saying that if you wanted to take that same property, and I'm not sure where it's at
Yeah.
exactly, but, where if you take that same property and, come up with another plan where the builder could make maybe less money or more money, what are the alternatives that he could take? Here, that builder may or may not have our township and thinking the same way that the people who live here would do. I mean, it could be somebody from another county or another state even. What I'm saying is that I guess, is there something that this property owner could do to develop besides doing this? And maybe this is gonna make him more money, but do we wanna sacrifice some of our restrictions now in order for somebody else to make more rental units or whatever? We've already done without, we could say, go back to mobile homes or trailer homes. If we say you can't do that anymore, and part of that reason was, I think, was to limit the amount of people that can go into a property and still have a small unit.
Mhm.
No garages whatsoever, most of the cases.
Yeah.
So
So-
I understand this in the context. If we don't approve this change, these text changes, then it would be more likely that their hands are tied, that it would be rental oriented.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that is correct. So if the way that R4, this property is currently zoned R4, multifamily or multiple unit dwelling is what the zoning of the property is. The zoning of this property right now lends itself really to rentals and creatively condominiums. So the language itself is geared towards rentals, but you can creatively get condominium units in there because you're not parceling off land, you're parceling off a structure.
Mhm.
So that's the only reason why condos could work in this district, is because reading through the lines and between everything, you're like, oh, well, condos can kind of work because you're not parceling off land. So the way that it's written now, a single bedroom unit is 850 square feet. That's the minimum required size. If they were to do rentals, the minimum they would be required is 850 square feet. If they do a 2-bedroom dwelling unit, it's 900 square feet. And if they do 3 or more bedrooms, it's 1,200 square feet. So you could have a 4-bedroom unit that's 1,200 square feet. So right now, the 1,200 square foot maximum for the townhomes is based off of the highest number that we currently have made a minimum in this district. But if he were to create he could create single bedroom units or even studio apartments with a minimum square footage of 850. So we're not really lessening what he could already do. The effect is there. The density, we're not changing what density he could do. The amount of units that he can have is based on square footage of the parcel size itself. And so I think right now he's permitted to have, I think it's like 76 units based on the acreage. And this developer is proposing 72 or 71. But again, if he wanted to, or if another property owner of R4 wanted to, and they had the same acreage, they could fit in 76 units, but they would have to be 1,200 square feet. They would have to have a one-car garage, versus if it was an apartment complex with rentals, they could have 76 one-bedroom or studio apartments. There would be no requirement for them to be providing more than the minimum, which would be a complex of 76 studio apartments. So ultimately, what we're doing is we're providing what we see as a better alternative, while it's not as restrictive as our single family districts. It's about as restrictive as what it would be if they were doing, 3-bedroom units. But also, we're getting fee simple lots, we're getting attached one-car garages, in hopes that people are storing things in there versus just out and about. And we're hoping that catches developers' eyes that own a vacant R4 parcel, and they say, oh, well, look at this other option. We could do fee simple townhomes instead of doing rental complexes. So
I
that's,
think that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah, so that was the whole point, was to try to give them an attractive option that would still make them money, but would be more attractive to the township versus like a studio complex or something where you've got a whole bunch of rentals that are tiny.
right.
And we have some nice condo units around that are maintained.
Yeah.
I would hate to make it possible for people to do less than the maintenance that we are getting now. I mean, most of them, I've driven through quite a few of them. I can't think of any of them, well, maybe one.
But, well, yeah, this one over here on Menor, but those are actually rentals. These
Yeah.
ones here are rentals, they're not condos. So those are, that's a
You're
rental
talking about
community. The ones right across on, is that Cambridge? Is that Cambridge there?
Those are apartment houses like.
Yeah, those are
mostly rental
apartments. So
apartments.
that's what they could do, are those
Yeah.
apartment units. So either way, they can have them, and the maintenance could be less than. But we anticipate, because they're fee simple lots, that there would be more maintenance. We would see more, pride in ownership than we would had it been just an apartment complex.
Exactly.
So what we're attempting to do is actually the opposite of what you're fearing. We're trying to address your fear by making this situation better for the developer and for the township, because what you're fearing, if we don't do this, what you're fearing is what we have an increased possibility of happening if we don't make this change.
That's the, I'm just gonna ask a question, is there any, is there a time sensitivity to our making a decision on this now? Or not? Because if, I was originally going to do the closed, I made the motion for the closed, but given John's and Daryl's maybe some additional research or discussion might be of value, is there any sensitivity on timing?
So I will say that in terms of township time, no, but we do have a developer that is in the process of developing land and has been talking to us for quite some time, actually, trying to decide, what route they were going. I think we've been talking to them for at least 4 months now, and they're anxious to get started to do their groundwork and everything this summer.
You're in the construction season.
Yeah. So there's anxiousness in association with that, especially for roadways and things like that, is the asphalt.
And this option here gives the township and the developer more building options
More
for
flexibility.
flexibility for us to get a nicer
And that's my.
a nicer
drawings.
development.
Outcome, yeah.
And I think
Better
for
development.
I think for us, that's that's what we really
We
want.
Yeah.
I don't like to pigeonhole. I mean, if you have to go for, okay, have to go. But this is an opportunity for us to give them flexibility. Doesn't mean they're going to do a fee simple lot.
Yeah.
They can go back and do the regular R4. There's nothing against that. Or if they decide to go with the fee simple lot, they can. It's an option that they can go. Again, we've approved the site plan with the fee simple lots. Trustees still have the final say.
Right.
So, and improving a subdivision, and then that subdivision goes to the Lake County Planning Commission for the final build and all that good stuff.
Okay.
So to me, from what I'm hearing from the staff and hearing some of your concerns, for me, I think this text amendment as amended tonight, made those two changes, I think would give the trustees and give Painesville Township more options in an R4 district, to give them an opportunity to give us something a little bit more, less dense, but much nicer.
Well, thank you for the additional concerns, John, because we shared those deep down. But
So,
given what I heard, I would like to make a motion that we close the discussion,
public hearing,
public hearing.
that's all. The only motion right now on the floor would be to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Either one, I don't care.
madam, it's up to you.
Take your
Mark
pick.
made the motion. You can have John or Daryl second it.
Okay.
A discussion on closing the public hearing. Hearing none. Roll call, please, for the closing of the public hearing.
Okay, Mark,
Yes.
Daryl,
Yes.
John Hott,
Yes.
John Everett,
Yes.
and Chairman.
Yes. Okay. We closed the public hearing. Now I'm not going to go back through the other ones we haven't done. So we're right back into where we are now. We have a closed public hearing. We closed it. If the question we have on the board right now is we need a motion to approve the text amendment as amended tonight. And the amendments were in section 1708 F as in Frank, and is G as in good.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted
No, but go
to
ahead.
clarify. I apologize. It's a motion to make a recommendation
To the township trustees.
to approve.
These text amendments
Yeah,
as amended tonight.
Yes. So it's a
So-
motion to recommend, not a
so
motion
motion.
to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mark and a motion by John Everett. Seconded. Discussion on the motion.
No, is this just what we just voted on,
Yeah.
Yes.
but reworded?
Same thing.
Correct, sir.
Okay,
Correct.
okay.
I think we got more clarification on it. Roll call, please, on the motion to recommend the text amendment to the trustees.
Okay, John Everett,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Daryl,
Yes.
John Hott,
Yes.
and Chairman.
Yes. Okay. Motion is approved, and it'll go to the township trustees at their next trustee meeting. Items to be held, we have no items to be held for public hearing. Zoning inspector's report.
I have nothing to add, Mr. Chairman, other than try to stay off the roads April 8th.
I will not be, unfortunately, I will not be, but, folks, our next meeting, any further business to come before the commission? Hearing none. Our next meeting is Monday, May 13th, the start of sectionals. I don't know where I'll be. 2024. Motion for adjournment. I motion adjourned at 7:34. Motion adjourned. Meeting is adjourned. And next see you in 5 weeks to the 4th.
Hey, Kyle,
Yes, sir.
is the reason that they want